So the thing that's made Australia what it is today is going to lead to its downfall, in my opinion. And of course, I could be wrong, but hear me out. So Australia has a national psyche of resilience. And obviously, this resilience has helped Australia through really tough times. It's also helped Australia during its darkest days. It's also been what's made Australia great in the realm of arts, sports, medicine, and just the country itself is a country that pulls up its boots and gets it done. But I'm certain that this national psyche is what's going to lead to Australia's downfall, because unfortunately, there's a lot of Australians out there that won't complain until it's too late. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Jimmy, and me and my family, we left Australia 2 years ago, and we now live in Penang. It was our escape plan. We didn't want to feel like we were frogs slowly being boiled in the pool of cost of living. So we decided to pack up our stuff and leave for Southeast Asia for a better life, and so far it's been pretty good. And if you want to learn more about our thoughts and how we went about it, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Okay, so resilience. Why is it a bad thing? Well, the problem is there's a lot of Australians out there that are slowly being boiled alive. Do you know the analogy when you put a frog inside a pot and you turn the heat up very slowly? It won't realize it's being boiled until it's too late. That is where a lot of Australians are right now. A lot of Australians are slowly getting boiled alive by the increasing cost of living and inflation. And a lot of Australians are just copying it, and they're going to cop it until they can't cop it anymore. And it's got a lot to do with this psyche, this national psyche of resilience and not complaining and just getting on with the job. There are big corporations, lobbyists, and decision makers that take advantage of this national psyche. I'm almost certain of it. The thing is, let's take this can of soda water I'm drinking here. Let's say that this can of soda water you bought today was $1. Now, tomorrow you wake up and this can is $2.50. You would be up in arms. You'd be like, why am I paying 1.5 times more for this can of soda? Now, if you just spread that increase over a 3-year period, which is what's been happening, then you don't really notice it. But the problem when you don't really notice it is that you don't do anything about it. I am genuinely surprised in Australia that there's not protests on the streets with how crazy it is and how crazy it costs to live in Australia right now. It's like no one cares. Now, obviously, a lot of Australians do. A lot of Australians are living through it right now. But I'm afraid that no one is going to take action until it's too late, until they get to that last bill and they're like, we genuinely have no money to pay this. I don't know what to do. And that scares me because there's a massive transfer of wealth happening in Australia right now and no one seems to be batting an eyelid. And I'm not talking about crazy conspiracy theories here. How many families out there are living in cars right now because they just can't afford to get into the rental market even, and no one is doing anything about it? How many people below the poverty line are having to scrounge through bins and like beg and do things like that just to make ends meet, and no one seems to care? Now, obviously we all care, we're all human beings, but no one is taking any action to stop this. What really scares me is how many Aussies out there are just relying on the status quo being the same. They are relying that they're going to wake up and have a job tomorrow. They're relying that their rent doesn't change. They're relying that their interest rates don't go up because their life is so precarious and the cost of living has moved them closer from being middle class to lower class that everything has to go right for that to work. And unfortunately, the signs are pointing more and more to it not being the case. The status quo will not stay the same. So what's your plan? What is your escape? So right now, there's a lot of Australians sitting in a pot being slowly boiled alive by big corporations and lobbyists. And very few Australians have jumped out of this pot so far. Now that we're aware of the problem, what is your plan to escape that pot? Now, it doesn't have to be as crazy as what we did and leave the country and go and live somewhere else. Although I will say that is a perfectly viable plan given how much the cost of living has increased in Australia. It doesn't have to be to that extreme, but you do need a plan. You need an escape plan for when things don't go right. Because just saying, she'll be right, mate, is not going to help you when you can't pay your bills. It's not going to help you between choosing electricity or choosing food on the table. It's really not. The amount of Australians that just blindly walk into their job every day, not knowing anything about the business that they work with and the financial position that business is in, and not knowing that they could wake up tomorrow and not have that job, and them not having any kind of a plan of attack if that happens, is actually downright scary. Because things may be good right now, the water in the pot may only be lukewarm, but it won't take much for that to go from lukewarm to boiling hot very quickly if jobs start to roll over, unemployment starts to rise, and people start to feel the pinch of this increasing cost of living. So what's your escape plan? What's your plan B? Now, everyone's first stop should be cutting costs, obviously. If you're not cutting costs right now, if you're not reducing your family's expenses right now, then sorry, you're not being financially responsible. There is no better time to start looking at your family's expenses and going, what do we need and what don't we need right now? Do you really need that second car? Do you really need to go out for dinner on Friday nights? This is the time to start looking at that stuff, because the bigger you can make that gap between poverty and yourself, the better. And you might as well do that while the time's good. Again, our job is to escape the pot. And the way you escape the pot is by being prepared for when the water gets too hot that you're ready to jump out. Another thing you really need to, and I think this is really the time to start considering how and where you get your income from. If there was ever a time to start exploring different ways to make money, now is the time. Not only because it's so easy to make secondary, tertiary incomes now, especially with the online space. It's so easy to make income online now. It's also just, it's the best time to learn how to do something and learn something new is before you need it. There's no use learning how to do, say, digital marketing or learning a new skill that might be a little bit more resilient if the economy does slow down, learning that when the economy slows down. You have a finite window of opportunity to learn and retool your skill set, even if you may not ever need it again. But it's better to be safe than it is sorry. Now, this can be absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be what I do, which is digital marketing. It can be anything. But the reason I was able to initiate my escape plan, which was wholesale checking out of Australia and the cost of living issues that we were having over there, is because I learned an online skill, in my case, which was digital marketing. You can learn more about that in the description if you're interested. But mine was digital marketing. It could be anything though. You just need to start building redundancies in your income. But I'm curious to know, at what point will Australians turn around and go, enough is enough? I'm getting sick and tired of the constant cost of living increases. Everything's getting more expensive. It's time to do something about it. Because it feels like a lot of Australians aren't ready to hear that yet, or they're just too proud to admit that life is not as good as it was and I need to do something about it. I'm just afraid that there's going to be millions of Australians that are just going to be left holding the bag of this mess the government's created over the last 15 years. And there's a lot of Australians that won't realize that their quality of life has gone until it's too late. But I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Let me know in the comments. This one was a little bit more of a rant. I just think that there's a lot of Australians out there that dismiss what we're doing here, not understanding the fundamental reason we went about doing it. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.